Tonight, opposition lawmakers stage a walkout as the House of Representatives passes the Electoral Act Amendment and the Petroleum Industry bills after a rowdy session. People's Democratic Party rejects the 2021 electoral bill as passed by the National Assembly, mandates lawmakers elected under its platform to challenge the bill in court. INEC releases list of candidates for the Anambra State Governorship election, but omits ABGA and PDP candidates, Soludo and Ozigbo names. And at least 120 people dead and hundreds more unaccounted for across Europe as rainfall causes more rivers to burst their banks. Plus business, sports, news from Abuja, and later, international news from our studio in London. Opposition lawmakers and the House of Representatives, led by the Minority Leader Ndidi Elumelu, today staged a walkout as the House passed the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. The lawmakers walked out on the consideration of the bill after the Deputy Speaker insisted that Clause 52 of the bill, which deals with electronic transmission of results, had been considered and adopted the previous day. Meanwhile, the absence of majority of the opposition, the House passed the Harmonized Petroleum Industry Bill, which made provision for 3% operating costs for host communities. Our correspondent Terry Kumi has the details.
A day after they were supposed to have gone on the annual recess, lawmakers in the Green Chamber settled down to conclude consideration of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, which caused a fight the previous day. The House had invited the Nigerian Communication Commission and the electoral umpire to speak on their preparedness to transmit election results electronically, but only the NCC was eventually considered. The NCC speaks on broadband distribution across the country and how it may affect electronic transmission of results.
From what I could tell of what is required, it's only 3G that could give that kind of cover. I mean, that could give that kind of transmission.
Okay.
In full, I mean.
Okay. So yes, only 3G yes, can adequately transmit.
Yes,
only 3G.
Yes. The polling units that fell under 3G coverage. Let's just say the stations that had 3G coverage came to about 50%.
The 50% claim by the NCC may, however, be questioned as the Nigerian National Broadband Plan 2020 to 2025, published by the NCC in 2019, puts the deployment of 2G coverage at 89%, 3G at 75%, and 4G at 37% of the population. The House then resolves to the Committee of the Whole, chaired by the Deputy Speaker, to resume consideration of the bill and adopt direct primaries.
I would like to amend Section 87 to make direct primaries, and delete the word indirect and make direct primaries mandatory.
Those in favor of the amendment say aye. Against say nay. Guys have it.
Meanwhile, the Speaker had stated the previous day that the House would resume from the controversial Clause 52 after hearing from the NCC. But the Deputy Speaker resumes consideration from Clause 54, sparking outrage from opposition lawmakers. The Deputy Speaker explains his decision, but the opposition is dissatisfied and stages a walkout.
That go and read our votes and proceedings of today. This particular question was put, and that was why we had it reported at the Committee of the Whole.
If that is the case, that they have carried it and waiting for us to do a rescission, because it was never carried. So the issue of rescission
no, sir.
will not even arise. I will advise that we leave the chamber. We are not part of it.
And that's the meaning of democracy. Thank you very much. We are grateful. Leader, don't title, go.
Outside the chamber, the Minority Leader explains why they chose to abandon the process.
They claimed that INEC should not come because it will be seen that INEC is taking a position. But the same INEC came at the public hearing and attested to the fact that they can work with electronically transmitting results. That same clause 52, that even Speaker himself upon commencement announced that we should suspend it and go to other clauses. The Deputy Speaker, who has shown that he's not democratic, he's not a Democrat, decided to ignore that, decided to ignore the whole House, and went ahead to start counting from clause 54 against what we had agreed. He was now saying that we should be guided by the rules. And being guided by the rules means to rescission, which in effect that we should admit that it was carried when it was never carried. And as far as we are concerned, that session has not been taken. And we will continue like this, even when we resume in the next assembly, in the next section, we will disrupt the sitting until our voices are heard.
He is countered by the majority leader.
For me, clause 52, just like the chair of the committee of the whole insisted, as leader of the 9th House of Representatives, I want to put it to you that we procedurally took section 52. It was carried, and we have no cause whatsoever going back to it except through rescission, which was not properly moved
Does
for.
that rule the Speaker out of order yesterday when he said that consideration will resume from clause 52?
What you need to know is that the Speaker is one thing, and the House of Representatives is another one.
Back in the chamber, with majority of the opposition absent, the Electoral Act Amendment Bill is passed.
Because of the briefing we have received from the officials of NCC, clearly states that this country as a nation cannot go for something that will not be effective. And on that note, I so move that through the use of any technological and electronic devices in the long title be deleted.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Against say nay. That's it.
Perhaps the concern now would be whether this highly anticipated Electoral Act Amendment Bill, which has taken years to be passed, will truly address the election concerns and improve the election process in the country. Meanwhile, in the absence of the opposition lawmakers, the House passed the PIB at 3% operating cost for host communities as passed by the Senate. The House has now adjourned till September the 14th. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the main opposition party, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, is rejecting the 2021 electoral bill as passed by the National Assembly, describing it as a scam. National Chairman of the PDP, Mr. Uche Secondus, told journalists at a news conference in Abuja that the party has also mandated federal lawmakers elected under the platform of the PDP to challenge the newly passed bill legally. The PDP chairman also questioned the rationale behind the rejection of electronic transmission of election results by lawmakers who are mainly of the ruling All Progressives Congress.
For us in PDP, today, like I said before, is a Black Friday for democracy. Free and fair and credible election is the tripod of any democracy in the world. The action of APC is showing their members against electronic transmission of election result clearly undermines and shows in unmistaken terms that APC is not ready to face Nigerian electorate. We therefore unequivocally condemned and reject the amendment of Electoral Act as passed by the National Assembly and urge Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari to fulfill his anti-corruption crusade and promise and see this as corruption and big scam. This is a big scam. This is a corruption at the highest level. The PDP will take all necessary legal steps to ensure that this APC scam is not allowed to stand in any way.
Well, we have joining us from Abuja to dig deeper into this issue, a lawyer and Executive Director, Policy and Legal Advocacy Center, Mr. Clement Nwankwo. Welcome to the News at 10.
Thank you, Millicent.
Now, on the issue of electronic transmission of results, there appears to be a variance from what the Senate passed and that passed by the House. The Senate's version provides that INEC will have to seek NCC's consent and National Assembly's permission. In the eye of the law, is there any contradiction?
Well, clearly the Constitution is very clear in different sections, both in the body of the Constitution, but also in the third schedule to the Constitution, that INEC shall not be subject to the control or directive of any personal authority. So clearly, if you were to pass a law which would be beneath the Constitution, then certainly that law cannot stand in the face of the constitutional definitions and provisions for independence of the Electoral Commission. So clearly, I think that the Senate may not have understood the full ramifications or import of the Constitution in introducing INEC's reporting and accountability to two bodies, one, the NCC, and two, itself. And I think even very contradictorily, itself being a contestant in an election. So clearly, I think that the Senate may need to revisit that. But happily, there are two different versions of the Electoral Act that were passed, the Senate and the House. And it would seem to me that the Senate has the opportunity of redeeming itself by looking at what the House has done and seeing how that can redeem what the Senate has done unconstitutionally, to me.
On the other angle, what the lawmakers disagreed in the House, an issue of wording where may was used instead of shall. The provision of Clause 52 gives INEC the free will to do as it seems fit, as you just mentioned. But then, what is your view on the lower chamber's position?
I think the law or the House of Representatives position comes from the discussions that went on during the joint meeting of both houses. And in some ways, it seems to me that what has happened and what we have seen is the House stating and restating the fact that INEC had, even of its own motion, gone far ahead with introducing electronics and technology into elections. One, of course, I think a lot of us who had worked both with the legislature and the Electoral Commission, what we wanted to see specifically was clear provisions that make it necessary that INEC uses technology. But clearly, I think INEC, even of its own motion, like I said earlier, has gone way, way ahead. It's able to transmit results from even some of the remotest parts of the country. It did that in Niger State recently. It did that in Borno State recently. It did that in the 2020 governorship elections in Edo State. So clearly, what the law is seeking to do is really to affirm what INEC has been doing in the last 4 or 5 years, transmitting results electronically. And I think that the National Assembly needs to realize that the world has really moved really, really far ahead of where we are today, and that technology has come to stay, and creating or trying to enact a law in the 21st century in 2021 that excludes technology is certainly way, way not acceptable. So my hope is that this is something that can be reviewed at some point, and that the Electoral Commission itself, that has given indications of how far and quick it can go with technology, will continue to expand the frontiers of technology as it seeks to improve Nigeria's electoral system.
Mr. Nwankwo, I must ask you, in about 20 seconds if you can, do you see the President assenting to the bill, and what effect would it have on the forthcoming elections?
Well, clearly, I think that if any bill is transmitted to the President that does not give INEC the powers to, or that excludes INEC powers to introduce technology in elections, if any such bill were to be transmitted to the President, then certainly it is imperative on the President to reject it, given that the President himself had clearly stated that he wants to leave some legacy with improving the electoral system in the country.
All right. Well, that's much we can take. We appreciate your time on the news at 10. Lawyer, Executive Director, Policy and Legal Advocacy Center, Mr. Clement Nwankwo. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you very much, Millicent.
In part 2, after the break, INEC releases list of candidates for the Anambra state governorship election, but omits ABGA and PDP candidates, Soludo and Ozigbo's names. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Opposition lawmakers stage a walkout as the House of Representatives passes Electoral Act amendment and the Petroleum Industry bills after a rowdy session. People's Democratic Party rejects the 2021 electoral bill as passed by the National Assembly, mandates lawmakers elected under its platform to challenge the bill in court. INEC releases list of candidates for the Anambra State Governorship election, but omit ABGA and PDP candidates Soludo and Ozigwe's names. And at least 120 people dead and hundreds more unaccounted for across Europe as rainfall causes more rivers to burst their banks. The Independent National Electoral Commission INEC has released a list of candidates for the Anambra governorship election scheduled for November the 6th, 2021. They omitted the names of the PDP candidate and Chukwuma Soludo of ABGA. A statement by the National Commissioner and Chairman Information and Voter Education Committee, Mr. Festus Okoye, cited a court order for the exclusion. However, the Commission cleared the candidates of the factional ABGA candidate, Chukwuma Michael Umoji. In the meantime, a faction of the All Progressives Grand Alliance, led by Chief Victor Oye, has been reacting to the list of governorship candidates for the Anambra election as released by INEC. Chief Oye is asking the electoral body to immediately publish the name of his candidate, Professor Chukwuma Soludo, in line with Section 31, subsection 3 of the Electoral Act. Chief Oye claims the electoral umpire failed to publish the name of the former governor of the central bank since the 9th of July after duly acknowledging the receipt of his details from the party on the 2nd of July 2021.
We submitted the particulars of our candidate on July 2. It was to end on July 9. INEC received it the same July 2 and acknowledged it. According to the Electoral Act, INEC was supposed to have published that name 7 days after receiving it, which means should have published it on the 9th. Now the question is, why did INEC wait? Why was INEC waiting? Are you getting me? Till 16th, which is today, because the information we got was that INEC delayed it today so that they will issue nomination papers, documents to a stranger, an alien. Some people alien to APGA, to issue particulars to the forms and everything, for them to fill and return the same today and the name published the same day. That is unacceptable.
And Justice Iyengeko of the Federal High Court in Abuja has adjourned the suit seeking to remove the Zamfara State Governor, Bello Matawalle, for defecting from the People's Democratic Party, PDP, to the All Progressives Congress, APC. This follows the withdrawal of the suit seeking to unseat the state's Deputy Governor, Mr. Mahadi Gusso, over alleged unlawful defection by the PDP for lack of evidence against him. But the party is asking the court to remove Governor Bello Matawalle for defecting to the All Progressives Congress.
The People's Democratic Party, PDP, has made true to its threat and is approaching the court to challenge the defection of Governor Bello Matawalle of Zamfara State, who has defected from the PDP to the APC. The PDP believes that the mandate belongs to them. Although the Zamfara State chapter of the party had filed the suit initially, the national body of the party is taking up the case, contending that the governor is ineligible to hold the seat in view of an earlier judgment of the Supreme Court to the effect that the APC had no candidate in the 2019 governorship election in Zamfara State. At the resumption of proceedings, the PDP withdrew the deputy governor's name on the ground that there was no evidence of defection by him.
Based on the judgment of the Supreme Court, the APC, which did not fill the candidates in the 2019 elections, pursuant to the judgment of the Supreme Court, cannot hold the office of the governor of Zamfara State. So we are here on behalf of members of the PDP, and the suit, based on what transpired today in court, the PDP itself has requested to be joined in this suit as the first plaintiff because the mandate belongs to the PDP. So we are in court to reclaim the mandate of the People's Democratic Party, which was freely donated by the people of Zamfara State.
Counsel to the governor did not oppose the withdrawal, as he insists that the governor, by exercising a constitutional right, did not transfer the mandate of the PDP to the APC.
The restriction against movement has to do with members of the National Assembly and the Houses of Assembly in accordance with Section 68 and others, in terms of you have to show that there is a division in the political party from which you are defecting. The other third motion, all of which we did not oppose anyway, was to the effect that he wanted to amend his processes by dropping Madi Gusau, the deputy governor, as a defendant, and bringing in the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, as a party, as a defendant in the suit. And of course, there was no need to oppose.
The case has been adjourned to September the 29th for hearing.
And a federal high court sitting in Lagos has acquitted and discharged the immediate past president of the Nigerian Bar Association and senior advocate of Nigeria, Paul Usoro. Mr. Usoro had been standing trial on a 10-count charge of fraud and money laundering made against him by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. He had pleaded not guilty to the offence and made a no-case submission, insisting that the anti-graft agency had made no case against him to warrant him to enter a defence. In his decision on the no-case submission today, trial judge Justice Rowan Akawa held that the anti-graft agency failed to establish any prima facie case against Mr. Usoro. Justice Akawa noted that the penal code under which the former NBA president was charged is not applicable to the southern states of Lagos and Akwa Ibom, which were set to be the locations of the alleged offences. The EFCC arraigned Mr. Usoro on December the 18th, 2018, before Justice Muslim Hassan on a 10-count charge. He pleaded not guilty to all the counts, but was subsequently rearraigned before Justice Aikawa on a charge which alleged that he committed the offence on May 14, 2016. He was alleged to have conspired to convert the sum of 1.4 billion naira property of Akwa Ibom state government, which sum they reasonably ought to have known formed part of proceeds of an unlawful activity. Mr. Usoro vigorously denied the allegations. Away from the courtroom, it's been a tough day for residents of Lagos today as a heavy downpour led to flooding, resulting in gridlocks in most parts of the state. The rain lasted for hours, especially in Lagos Island area, which left most roads flooded. Most workers remained stranded as they were unable to access their vehicles after close of work in several parking lots along the marina axis of the state. Videos show how cars remained almost completely submerged and the rising flood as the rain lasted. In the meantime, the Lagos State government says it will continue to carry out maintenance of all drainage and canals to prevent flooding during the rainy season. The State Director Drainage and Maintenance, Mr. Lalekon Ajani, asked residents to stop indiscriminate dumping of refuse into the water channels. He made this known during an inspection exercise of 4 local council development areas on the mainland. Our correspondent Titilayo Aberowo has more.
The rains are here again, and a state like Lagos, which is coastal in nature, is prone to flooding. Lagos has about 176 primary and secondary water channels that requires regular clearing. Knowing the importance of this, the state government is tackling System 6C, which serves 4 local council development areas in Surulere, Mushin, Odiolowo and Itire-Ikate, all on the mainland.
We are not localizing to one particular local government. It's as we are cleaning here, so also we are cleaning other major areas, the canal. I think what we need to do first is sensitization, telling people to change their attitudinal change to the usage of canal. You know, because they don't see canal as being the conveyors of water. They see it as an opportunity to dump the refuse. Anytime it rains, you now see people dumping their refuse. It's not the silt that is actually causing flooding in this canal. It is the floatables, the refuse. So we need to change our attitude.
From Akobi Crescent, the team moves to the Ishaga Water Channel around the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, where a collector drain is located. Residents say the clearing of the drain has really helped.
There was a time we fixed many problems in this canal. But now, since they'll be parking it now regularly, things have been changing. Formerly before, if there's a rain, all these houses you see around here, flood there with water.
Previously, snow doesn't what to talk about. You see a waste huge to this length, high like this, everywhere in Lagos State. But today, there's nothing like that.
While the Lagos State government continues to clear its drainage systems, there is also an appeal to residents to stop dumping refuse into the canals. Titilayo Aberewo, Channels Television News.
Let's go over to Abuja for some more stories. Here's Gloria Mizuke. Hello, Gloria.
Hello, Millicent. Good to see you. The Police Public Relations Officer, Mr. Frank Mba, says the Inspector General of Police has approved the deployment of special highway patrol forces to boost security on the highways during the Eid al-Kabir celebration. According to the Force PRO, the police chief has also directed all Assistant Inspectors General of Police to pay more attention to interstate link roads. The police authority, however, warns that all deployed personnel be professional in the operations and respect the rights of law-abiding citizens.
The Inspector General of Police, IGP Usman Akali Baba, has already given a very comprehensive directive to zonal AIGs and command commissioners of police to ensure that customized security arrangements to suit the security needs of the areas of operations, areas of responsibilities under the supervision of these designated strategic managers are put in place. We'll be paying very special attention to interstate link roads because we also understand that this is the holiday period and a lot of Nigerians will be traveling to the countryside to celebrate with their loved ones. And I want to assure Nigerians that in the coming hours, in the coming days, and in the coming weeks, they will see a lot of police deployment, both in terms of personnel and in terms of assets on most of our highways.
Well, some soldiers have shot 6 protesting workers of the Savannah Sugar Company in Giawana local government area of Adamawa State, with all the victims sustaining various degrees of injury. The action has, however, been condemned by the state governor, Umaru Fintiri, in strong terms. According to the governor, what happened is unfortunate and condemnable.
Driving along this huge sugar plantation, and then you sense a relative calm as security operatives are seen around the area. Adamawa State Governor Umaru Fintiri cuts short his official engagement in Abuja on arrival into Yola, the state capital, and proceeds to Giawana in Lamurde local government area, the host community of Savannah Sugar Company Limited. He soon heads to the hospital where victims who are workers of the sugar company are receiving treatment to commiserate with them. The governor takes time to allay the fears of the community, even as a representative of the casual protesting workers narrates their ordeal in the hands of the military.
Our rights are being infringed upon because when there were openings for recruiting workers, people were brought in from outside. Those of us in this community were left out. This is the reason for our protest.
Governor Fintiri promises that government will investigate the incident while advising workers to follow the proper channel of seeking redress in situations of unrest.
There's bound to be disagreement, but I think nobody should take it too far. The military have gone too far. The youths also have not exercised restraint and exploited the constitutional way of solving disputes.
Meanwhile, The military has already dismissed a report in one of the online media that 7 persons were killed by soldiers. Even as residents of Gyawana community now expect the state government to help resolve the issue to prevent a recurrence.
The former Provost Marshal of the Nigerian Army, Major General Hussaini Ahmed, who was shot dead yesterday by gunmen while traveling on Lokoja-Abuja Road, has been laid to rest at the Guards Brigade Cemetery in Abuja. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahaya, described the senior officer as an articulate, dedicated, loyal and highly professional officer with sterling contributions to the Nigerian Army. In recognition of his meritorious services to the nation, Major General Hussaini Ahmed was honored with several awards and medals, including the Forces Service Star, Meritorious Service Star, Distinguished Service Star, Field Command Medal and Fellow Defense College, among others. Staying with security, the Joint Security Task Force Operation Safe Haven has rolled out measures that will ensure the security of lives and property, especially in some communities that have experienced security breaches in recent times. Newly deployed commander of Operation Safe Haven, who also doubles as General Officer Commandant Division 3 of the Nigerian Army, Major General Ibrahim Salahu Ali, at a peace parley with stakeholders in Jos, enjoined the people to embrace peace and shun activities that will further polarize the people. He assures that the Joint Security Task Force will remain neutral in maintaining law and order in the entire joint operational area.
Critical stakeholders drawn from Barkin Ladi and Riyam local government areas of Plateau State in north-central Nigeria, comprising of traditional leaders, political and community leaders, as well as youth organizations, gathered at the Operation Safe Haven headquarters in Jos on the invitation of the new commander to brainstorm on the way forward for peaceful coexistence with a view of changing the tide of insecurity in the state and joint area of operations which include Southern Kaduna and parts of Bauchi State. Recent attacks resulting in killings and reprisals in some cases attracts the attention of the commander of the Joint Security Task Force, who did not mince words by calling on the people to embrace peace by forgetting whatever that must have transpired in the past and give the task force an opportunity with some measures that will enhance peaceful coexistence.
Let's tolerate each other and embrace peace. That's number one. Number two, there has been attacks on individuals and communities. That must stop. I've talked about protests. I'll go to night grazing. That is for the Fulani. You must stop night grazing. Keyword in the Delhi. You have to stop it. Yeah.
Representatives of the communities expressed their concern and assured their intention of towing the path of peace for the good of the people and meaningful development.
The people come intentionally. That is the word that hurts the people. You know, and you know how they can be. They are very, very emotional. And they can do anything at that point. That is why at times they run after the cattle, and because of anger, they are able to strike some of the cattle.
Supposed to embrace peace so that the soldiers should go back to barrack and we continue our life as how some of us grew up and meet. Now our children that are 20, they will not tell you that they cannot even speak Biro, but I can speak Biro.
With the new intervention and approach to addressing the security challenges in the affected areas, it's expected that the warring factions will sheath their swords and embrace peace and also cooperate with security agencies by exposing any criminals amongst them that are perpetrating the crimes.
A former president of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo, says good managers of resources are known in times of scarcity and economic downturn. The former president, who made the statement during the commissioning of the Ikotoku-Ikono flyover in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State, commended the state governor for his prudent management of funds. Meanwhile, Governor Odom Emmanuel notes that the road will drastically mitigate against recurrent accidents. He adds that PDP governors are delivering on their electoral promises.
The people of Akwa Ibom State in their numbers converge on the newly constructed Ikoroku-Ikano flyover along Olusegun Obasanjo Way in Uyo, the state capital. Government officials, residents, traditional rulers and groups are delighted to witness the official commissioning of the flyover.
This project, as you see, is the construction of 1 kilometer length of flyover with connections. And we have 16 meters with dual carriageway, 8 meters each way, that takes you from Uyo end towards the Abak end.
Governor Domi Manuel, who describes the project as a celebration of creativity, believes the road will significantly ease traffic in the area.
With what we are going through in Nigeria, even during COVID, with that today, people could see this kind of flyover in Akwa Ibom adorning with the best of street lighting systems in this country. It is marvelous in our eyes. You really stood by us when we were doing the project. And I want to thank the youths. This is your asset. You need to protect it. Thank you for acknowledging the fact that the kind of accidents we used to have before now in this area, today will be a thing of the past.
The special guest and former president of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo, commends the governor for being a prudent manager of resources and advised the people to protect the state's assets.
I'm particularly happy that the background that you had before taking on this job, which is how to manage finances and how to manage economy. You are putting it to good use here in your state. And you know a good manager of resources when he is able to manage in the time of scarcity.
The contract for the project was awarded exactly 2 years ago, and the people seem delighted to see its completion.
But that's it from the nation's capital. It's over now to Teniola Shobowale in Lagos for business news.
Thanks a lot, Gloria. Welcome to Business News. Nigeria's headline inflation dropped to 17.75% year-on-year in June from 17.93% in May, marking the third consecutive monthly decline. Latest data from the National Bureau of Statistics shows that food index also fell to 21.83% in June, while core inflation declined by 13.09% from 13.15% recorded in May. At the same time, urban inflation rate declined to 18.35% in June from 18.51% recorded in May, while rural inflation rates decreased to 17.16%. All-time inflation year-on-year was highest in Kogi, Bauchi and Jigawa, while Cross River, Delta and Abuja recorded the lowest increase last month. The National Assembly says it will soon strengthen the Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation Act to enable it tackle cybersecurity breaches associated with the financial technology systems in the nation's banking sector. This is the outcome of a retreat of the Senate Committee on Banking, Insurance and Other Financial Institutions and the management of the Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation held in Kaduna State.
We know there are a lot of criminals when you are talking about these cyber issues, because a lot of people are trying to take advantage, but we are also looking at the infrastructure that is available to be able to protect our financial services sector against these criminals. And of course, these are the areas we discuss about. We talk extensively on the issue of cyber crime when it comes to issue of our financial services sector. And I can assure you, the NDIC is really prepared, and they're ready. They have the expertise, but they need support. And these are the areas we're looking at in trying to give them all the necessary support they want, including strengthening their own law.
The central bank says only Dangote Sugar Refining PLC, Boa Sugar Refining Limited, and Golden Sugar Company have been authorized to import sugar into the country with officially sourced foreign exchange with immediate effect. A statement released by the financial markets regulator says the three companies were exempted from the restriction because they have made sufficient progress and commitment to the backward integration program in the sugar industry. The CBN further mentioned that no other company should be provided foreign exchange from the foreign exchange market for sugar importation, except with the express permission of the CBN. Meanwhile, the United States is set to issue a warning to firms over the risk of doing business in Hong Kong after China imposed a new national security law in the country last year. Ahead of the business advisory being issued by the Department of State, Treasury, Commerce and Homeland Security, President Joe Biden says the Chinese government is not keeping its commitment made on how it would deal with Hong Kong. The national security law, which was introduced in Hong Kong by China last year after protests over an extradition law, turned violent, makes it easier to punish protesters and reduces the city's autonomy. Let's check in on the stock market now. The bull managed to make a comeback from the mild drop recorded in the previous session as sentiments continue to weaken at the equities market. Amy John Mekwa tells us more.
Hello and welcome to the stock market report. The all-share index climbed steadily from intraday trading to close up 0.21%. Now, top trades had GTCO leading by value and volume after almost 76 million units of its shares were traded for about 2.2 billion naira. Looking at the counters now, banking, oil and gas, industrial goods ended in the green, but consumer goods was down 0.09%. CAP was one of the top advances for the day. While its opening price was 19 naira, it's gained 1 naira 80 kobo at the close of trading, and that's 9.47% up added to its share price. On the flip side, GPLC led the decline as its share price was down over 9% to close at 59 kobo. The activity chart was quite cheery compared to Thursday's trading. Deals, volume and value were much higher than yesterday. The value went from about 927 million for Thursday to over 3 billion today. Quite a lot. And this has brought the bull back to the floor of the NGX. And so we leave the bull on the floor of the NGX for the weekend. That's the stock market report. I'm Ini John Mekwa.
And that's business news tonight. I'm Teniola Shibowale. It's back to Millicent for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you, Teniola. At least 120 people have died and hundreds more in Western Europe are unaccounted for after some of the worst flooding in decades. In Germany, where the death toll now stands at over 100, Chancellor Angela Merkel has called for a determined battle against climate change. Let's head over to our London studios where Simon Pusey has more on this and other international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Record rainfall in northwestern Europe continues to cause massive flooding, devastating towns and cities and killing at least 100 people in Germany alone. More than 1,000 are still missing. Aerial footage shows the devastation in the town of Schlud, where houses have been destroyed. Roads around a town in southwest of Cologne were impassable as they were washed away by floodwaters. Eyewitness video clips showed floodwater gushing through the town. Drone footage shows the full extent of mudslides in western Germany. Police and fire departments have sent trucks and boats in a convoy of rescue vehicles to help the affected counties. Meanwhile, in Belgium, local media have reported at least 15 people have died in flooding, which has caused chaos across the south of the country, with transport links cut and more than 20,000 homes left without electricity. Footage shows houses and cars swept away by rising waters. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has described the violent unrest that swept the country over the past week as an assault on democracy.
So this is most unfortunate where we are.
He was speaking on a visit to the worst-hit province of KwaZulu-Natal, where almost 100 people have been killed. Mr. Ramaphosa said it was clear the violence and looting had been planned and instigated, and those responsible were being pursued.
This is not what we want to see in our country, and obviously we are going to have to re-examine everything that we do in defense of our people, in defense of the assets of the country. But right now, I'd like to say that we are rolling out our security forces. 25,000 soldiers are now being rolled out, and in a short space of time, they will have flooded the entire province and other provinces such as Gauteng as well.
Australian officials have urged people to obey lockdown measures that cover around 40% of the country's population as an outbreak of the highly contagious COVID-19 Delta variant again picks up pace. The Australian state of Victoria, home to its second largest city, Melbourne, has begun a snap lockdown after 2 more local cases of the virus. Hours after the lockdown was announced, protesters took to the streets of Melbourne. Rally organisers said they wanted to preserve individual and economic freedoms. China has said the US should stop interfering in Hong Kong in response to a report that the US is preparing to impose sanctions on Chinese officials. The Foreign Ministry spokesman Zhao Lijian made the comments at a news conference in Beijing. It's after the United States said it will sanction a number of Chinese officials over Beijing's crackdown on democracy in Hong Kong and will give a warning to international businesses operating there about deteriorating conditions. The fire in Oregon could turn into a vast inferno if allowed to merge with another blaze. That's according to the fire chief. Firefighters are battling to control a wild inferno which is spreading up to 4 miles a day and has left 2,000 people homeless in Oregon. The blaze has now destroyed an area larger than New York City after spreading almost 5,000 acres in just 24 hours. A tornado has injured several people and homes and left behind a trail of destruction in Ontario in Canada. Drone video showed several houses that were partially damaged in a suburb, with some homes completely destroyed. The tornado left smashed up cars and piles of wood where homes once stood. Footage shows people carrying their belongings and leaving their homes. The iconic Eiffel Tower is welcoming visitors again from today after its longest ever closure since the Second World War. Guests were greeted to music at the top of the famous structure to mark the reopening. The daily number of visitors has been set to 13,000, about half its usual capacity, to enforce social distancing rules. According to its website, it receives 7 million visitors every single year. And finally, a bear sanctuary in Ukraine has welcomed 3 brown bear cubs who were rescued from a zoo where they were being housed for entertainment. Born in January this year in a commercial zoo, visitors took pictures and touched them, but after criticism from activists, they were transferred to the sanctuary by an animal welfare organisation. They will now go through a rehabilitation period, after which they will be released into a larger forest enclosure. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thanks, Simon. Let's go to some sports news now. Here's Ayotunde Balogun.
Many thanks. Well, several protesters staged a march against the Olympics in Tokyo with just a week to go before the Games opening ceremony. The protesters shouted slogans such as "No Olympics Anywhere" and held banners and placards. One of the banners had a message calling on the visiting International Olympics Committee President Thomas Bach to stop genocide. Most venues are to have no spectators, with officials urging the public to stay at home and watch on television. A new manager of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, Nuno Espirito Santo, has fired a hands-off warning to clubs interested in signing Harry Kane. Santo insists the England striker is crucial to the Premier League club's ambitions next season. Reports in May said Kane, who has a contract with the North London club until 2024, had informed Spurs of his desire to leave this summer after another trophyless campaign.
Look, Harry is our player. That's period. No need to talk about anything else. Now is the moment to Harry to recover his energy, to rest. And when Harry comes again, we have time to speak, to to have good conversations. But like I said, now is the moment for Harry to rest, to prepare for what's coming. And what's coming is, and I'm looking forward for him to join the group.
European football governing body UEFA have announced that the 2023 Champions League final will be played in Istanbul after the past two editions were relocated from the Turkish city to Portugal owing to COVID-19 issues. St. Petersburg, initially scheduled to host the 2021 showpiece, will instead stage next year's final, while Wembley will be the venue for the 2024 final. Munich was due to stage the 2023 final, will now host the 2025 edition. A Spanish court has dismissed a new complaint filed in 2020 against Barcelona's Lionel Messi by a man who accuses the Argentine footballer of fraud, embezzlement and money laundering. Federico Retri, an Argentine national living in Spain who claims he formerly worked for Messi's charity, had filed a similar complaint in 2019, which was also dismissed. In it, he claimed the funds received by the foundation, which should have been directed to social causes, instead went towards various private activities or bank accounts that differed from those that were declared by the foundation. And that's a wrap in sports news.
Thank you, Ayotunde. And the main news again. Opposition lawmakers today staged a walkout at the National Assembly as the House of Representatives passed the Electoral Act amendment and the Petroleum Industry bills following a rowdy session. Also today, the People's Democratic Party rejected the 2021 electoral bill as passed by the National Assembly and mandated lawmakers elected under its platform to challenge the bill in court. And at least 120 people died today, while hundreds more remained unaccounted for across Europe as rainfall caused more rivers to burst their banks. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Have a good night and stay safe.